Hey, it's Mike Waters and welcome back to the Mystic Smoker Shop. In this episode, we're going to put the feet on our 250-gallon direct flow cooker. In the last episode, we put the firebox on, everything went great with that, and we're ready to put the little legs and feet. So a lot of people ask me, say, Mike, why do you put feet on your cooker, or why do you put that style of feet on your cooker? And it's pretty straightforward. You never know what you're going to end up doing with this cooker 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the road. You could start off with it being on a golf cart, and obviously this type of mounting system would work great for that. You could have it on a caster cart. I've got cookers in restaurants. That's typically where caster cart or caster table setups come in, or if you've got it on pool deck or back patio deck or something like that, where you build a caster table with steel casters, similar to this right here. This will mount to that, or if you want to put it on a trailer, this type of setup will accommodate that. So in short, we can take this cooker, once it's got its little feet and legs on it, and move it on any of those 3 platforms in a matter of minutes. It's real easy to do. The little legs are simply rectangular tubing. This is just my template. It's made out of 1/8 inch, but all of these are made out of 3/16. So it's 2 by 3 rectangular tubing, 3/16 wall thickness, and that's what we're using. Now the little foot, or not little, it is a honker piece of steel. For me, the foot piece, the base, is 1/2 inch thick, and it's 2.5 inches wide. So it's a large piece of flat bore, and I don't know if it will zoom in and see that good enough. And ultimately, we will use 4 5/8 grade 8 bolts to bolt this cooker to the trailer. I don't like welding cookers to the trailers. I work on a lot of used cookers from time to time, replacing fireboxes, collectors, updating cookers that have been built for many, many years. And I always look at the welds where the little foot of the cooker is welded to the trailer. And in almost all cases, at least one of those feet has broken loose. Last year, I had one that was completely broken loose, and who knows why it hadn't fallen off of the trailer so far. It was just kind of sitting there, and I'm assuming the last foot broke on its way to bring it out to me to get some other work done to it. The owner didn't even know that the welds were broken. So my point is, I don't trust the welds. I know that 4 grade 8 bolts, 5/8 diameter in the back and 4 in the front. This cooker is not coming off of that trailer. If it tumbles down the interstate and does whatever it does, pieces could go everywhere, but the tank is going to stay on the trailer. I know that for sure. So let's go ahead and step over to the welding table. I've already tacked this one together, and we will cut out some pieces. I'll show you how I do that to make the individual legs, and we'll get them welded to the feet and then put them on. Nothing to it. All right, so you can see that I have a piece of flat bar here, and I have already cut the holes or drilled the holes. I do enough of these that I go ahead and make some of these up, and I just keep those in stock so that I don't have to stop in the middle of a trailer build or a cooker build to make more of them. I even have a template that I can drill those holes out, or at least mark those holes. I put a punch through here, and this one is for 30-inch diameter cookers, and on my systems I make this foot 30 inches long. If it's a 30-inch diameter cooker, then which a 250 is, of course, the 330s are as well, then the actual foot material is 30 inches long. It's the same width as the cooker. And my template has a 24-inch size. Now for the 24s, I go 25 3/4 wide. I just get it a little bit wider for the 24. So for a 30-inch cooker, which is what we're doing here, it's a 30-inch wide foot. And I put my feet in at, let me see how far that is there. 2.5 inches. So this foot comes in 2.5 inches on either side, and that gives me a inch to the center of that hole right there of extra room. And the reason I want that extra space there is, let me grab the bolts. The reason we need this extra space is because this bolt and washer set is huge. It's very big. And we need room for that bolt to sit and still have room for our weld here, if that makes sense. So there'll be a bolt there and a bolt here. And you can see that that is a incredibly substantial mounting system. If you're building trailers and cookers to go down the highway, you obviously want to over-engineer and have things a lot sturdier or beefier than they would probably work. I know that I have had many guys go, Mike, why are you using 5/8? You know, 3/8 would probably do it, or 1/2 inch for sure. And that they're probably right, but I sleep better at night knowing that this system is never going to fail. So that's pretty straightforward. The next thing that is a huge question that guys have is, Mike, how do you come up with that shape? And that's pretty straightforward. And let me find something that I can actually demonstrate that on. Okay, so one of the questions that I get asked the most is, how do we get this radius? How do you arrive at the mark to make that cut? And it's really simple, really straightforward. This piece here, for me, at least for my cookers, the way I like them to be set up, the cooker sitting on the trailer, the door opening is right at 34 inches. And that's good for most of us, the average person out there that's, 5'10", 6 foot, something like that. 34 inches for the door opening off the ground is a good height. That's what this height right here translates to on my trailers. So for me, that's 7 5/8 from the end here to the end there. And on this end, it's 4 3/8. But the 7 5/8 is the critical measurement. So what I do is I start out with a piece that is probably 8 or 9 inches, even 10, doesn't matter, a little bit longer than you need. And you want to determine how far apart your feet are on the tank. So I've just got a door band here that is simulating our tank, because the tank obviously is upside down right now. And I just don't want to flip it back over to film this clip. So we're going to pretend that this is the tank, the radius of the tank. And this is a 30-inch door band, so it's pretty darn close. And imagine that this side is the open door. We've got our door swung up, and this is the exposed edge of the tank right there that's going to give us our radius. All we have to do now is take our piece of rectangle that is longer than we need and hold it up so that we can make a mark on it. And you want to take just a small level and get it plumb, right, so that your mark is right. And once you get it plumb, just take your Sharpie, put a mark on there, and then you can bring it over to the table and cut that out. So I do enough of them that I have a template, and I use this template to make them all. So I cut a bunch of these off at 7 5/8 on the chop saw, and then I just take a straight edge like that and line it up to where the two pieces can sit like that, and I just make the mark like that, and then flip this over to the other side and mark that side. Pretty straightforward, easy. Okay, so making this cut is very easy. All you have to do is make a very light skim cut to start with, and I like to start on this end and let the grinder pull its way through very gently, and I'm holding it up so that it makes a very light cut. Now a lot of guys will say, Mike, that's not a straight line. You can't cut a curved line with a cutoff wheel, particularly a thin one, and that's just not true. As long as you make this cut in several small or very light passes, probably 3 or 4 passes, it will do just fine. The most important pass is the guide pass, the skim pass, where we're cutting a very shallow groove that we're going to use to drive in for the next ones. And I'm actually driving this cutter here. I'm steering with the back, which is why I like this long grinder here. I'm not particular to the yellow. It's just I really like the way this one feels, and it gives me enough leverage back here that I can drive. The shorter ones up here I feel cramped and it's just too hard to drive. I like having this extra long handle that I can get some leverage on. So let me put my full face mask on, because if I'm making a series of long cuts like that, I don't want the metal fines getting in my face, so I use the full face respirator, not just to keep the debris from going in my eyes or you know, coming up and hitting me in the eyes. And I like to keep the dust out, keep from breathing the dust. But probably most importantly is the very tiny, almost microscopic pieces of metal that will be flying through the air and will even hang in the air for several minutes after the cut. You'll get those in your eyes, and it causes eye problems for me. I get dry eye problems and all of that business. So if I'm going to be making more than a couple of real short cuts, I go ahead and use the full face mask or full face respirator. If I am just making a couple of shortcuts and I'm looking around trying to find my actual face shield, I'll just use the full face shield, not the respirator. But anyway, let me put this on. Okay, so we've got our feet and leg assemblies made, and putting them on the tank is relatively easy. We'll go through that right quick. For the rear, I like to give myself about 6 inches and 3/16 between the back wall and this leg right here. And the reason is, when we roll this tank back down, it needs to go, this caster needs to be able to slide through there. And also the rear cross member on the trailer will be about right here. So the tank will mount on a separate cross member here, and the rear trailer cross member or frame section will be right there. So about 6 3/16, 6 1/4 inches is plenty. For plenty distance for that caster to pass through. Now, there is another thing that we need to keep in mind when we're putting our feet on is our drain for the tank, for the cooker. So let me reposition the camera and I'll show you what I'm talking about on that end. Okay, so we're up by the front of the cooker now, the collector end, the front of the trailer end, and we're getting ready to put or attach the feet and leg assemblies to the cooker. But before we do that, it's best to go ahead and put our drain in, because that way we won't be messing with all of this assembly being in the way. So I like to use a 2-inch ball valve. It's a brass ball valve with a stainless steel ball, of course, and it will mount here. I like to mount this just forward of the vertical seam here, and the reason for that is that allows me to get this foot forward, as far forward on the trailer or as far forward on the tank as we can, and I like to bring it back about 1 3/4 or 2 inches from that seam. So the leg base, or the little leg itself, is about 2 inches towards the rear of this vertical seam, and this nipple assembly will be probably a 1/2 inch forward of that vertical seam. And that will give us enough room that we can spin this valve on later without hitting the cross member of the trailer that will be right here. Remember, it's 2" by 3" rectangular tubing that is the cross member of the trailer, and that's the front cross member up by the A-frame. And if we put this too close, we won't be able to turn it to get it on, and that would be a nightmare. So I put the ball valve forward of the vertical seam, put the foot to the rear of the vertical seam, and that gives us enough clearance there to get those through. Now, I use, like I said, a 2" ball valve because large chunks will pass right through there without having to get in there and push them out with something. They're a little expensive, I don't know, 65, 75 bucks or something like that, but in my opinion, it's worth the expense. And that's what I do. All of the Mystic Smokers cookers come with 2" ball valves. Now the little stem or the stand for the ball valve is just a 2" nipple, 6 inches long, that I have cut in half. So I go to the hardware store, buy several of these, cut one in half, use half of it for this cooker, and the other half will go on the next cooker. No big deal. And I'll just blow that hole out with either the plasma cutter or the torch, probably torch because it's easier to get out at this point. I've already put the plasma up. So I'll get that nice and plumb and get it centered on our center line, get it mounted in, and then I'll move to welding the feet on. So a tip for the feet. A couple of things we need to keep in mind. We've got our back clearance back there. We've got our front clearance distance set up. The next big tip is to make sure that we get these absolutely level with each other. Okay, so I will make absolutely certain that this foot is 100% level in this direction, and I will also make sure that it is 100% level in this direction, just using my little torpedo level here. So once you get those two directions level and flat, that will ensure that these two surfaces are completely flat with each other, and this cooker will sit flat on the trailer. We don't want to have to put shims under one corner and all of that business. I've seen guys get this a little bit wrong and have to do that, but it's such a long piece that if you just get it absolutely level, it will be, the two of these will be in perfect plane alignment there. So pretty straightforward, and what I do is I put a small tack right there, and that allows me, once I get it level this way, which means, coming that way or that way, once I get that straightened out and my distance is correct here and here, I just put a small tack right there, and that will allow me to fine-tune rock this thing just the tiniest bit, and then put some more tacks on it, triple check it, and then weld it up. All right, so I got the legs and feet on, and they turned out pretty good. I've got one weld remaining at the bottom of each of these, and I'll roll the tank back to get that in position a little bit easier and a little prettier weld. I need all the help I can get as I get older. So the ball valve worked out just right, and it looks really nice. Gives us plenty of room if that trailer cross member is right there to take it on and off. So I'll go ahead and remove this and set it to the side until we get the trailer finished, and essentially that'll be the last thing that goes on. Now I will take some Teflon tape, put a pretty good bit around this, not because we're worried about leaks, because we just don't, but a lot of Teflon tape will give me some leeway or some room to play with when we're tightening it up. In other words, if we want that handle to be directly on the front or wherever you want it to be, if you have a good bit of Teflon tape on there, it still will move even though it's real tight, if that makes sense. You get a lot more forgiveness in how tight you're able to put it. And we do want it tight. We don't want it coming off going down the road or something like that. But a lot of Teflon tape, maybe 4 rounds or something like 4 or 5 rounds or whatever, will help lock that down in just about whatever position you want to put it in. So I will, off camera, roll this thing back a little bit on that side. knock these two welds out on the bottom right here, then roll it back this way, knock them out on the other side where they'll be nice and pretty, and that will finish the episode on feet. Now, it is a lot of work, or I don't think it's a lot of work. It only took me, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half to get them on there. But if you haven't done it before, it's a good bit more work than just welding, legs to a trailer. But in my opinion, it's a huge benefit down the road, being able to move this off of a caster cart or a golf cart style cart, or put it on a trailer, or if you want to upgrade your trailer or change it from one trailer to another. One of the nice features that I see about having these feet is a lot of customers now, rather than building 500-gallon systems, they're building twin 250s. That just gives them a lot more versatility. It actually gives more cooking space. When you stop and think about it, the main grate space on two 250s is more than the main grate space on a single 500. So you get more cooking space, and twin 250s also gives you a whole lot more versatility. In other words, you can run two cooks at one time, and run one low temperature cook on one cooker, one higher on the other, or time type of cookers, that sort of thing. So if you're into catering, then that's something to think about, going twin 250s, and having feet like this that you can position a cooker wherever you want on a trailer helps, because now you can put one more easily next to the other, and have a lot more versatility with trailers. So and another advantage of 250s over a 500 is if you're not running a big cook, you don't have to heat that whole 500 up. So there are advantages to having the feet, and in my opinion, it's definitely worth it. So I will see you in the next episode. And again, if you got anything from it, go ahead and give it the thumbs up and share the video to anybody that you think can use it. And most importantly, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, if you'll go ahead and do that, that alerts you when new videos are put out. And a little selfish on my part, it does rank the videos up higher in the YouTube algorithm. Makes it easier for the next guy to find them as well. So anyway, I will see you in the next episode, and thanks for watching.